On December 1st, 2010, a company called European Aeronautic Defence and Space released a short press statement. Today, we know that company as Airbus. At the time, almost nobody paid attention to it. Not the big newspapers, not the TV networks. The announcement talked about small changes to existing aircraft models. Different engines, slightly redesigned wings. Nothing that sounded like headline material. 5 years earlier, Airbus had already received all the attention it could hope for. That was when the A380 was unveiled. The largest passenger aircraft ever built. Airbus's bold attempt to defeat Boeing on long-haul routes and become the dominant aircraft manufacturer in the world. That plan failed. The A380 did not succeed. And yet, surprisingly, Airbus did not lose against Boeing in the years that followed. In fact, the opposite happened. Airbus was saved by a small, understated, almost boring airplane. With it, Airbus not only stayed competitive, it took significant market share away from Boeing, and it all traces back to that quiet announcement in 2010. Even Airbus itself did not expect what would follow, because sometimes it isn't the most ambitious projects that change an industry. Sometimes it's the small decisions, or in this case, small airplanes. While the A380 struggled, a modest update to the A320 family became a runaway success. So much so that nearly 80% of all Airbus aircraft sold last year belonged to this single family. My name is Jenny, and today we're looking at why small airplanes can matter far more than big ones. In 2010, Airbus was under pressure. Like many companies, it was still feeling the effects of the 2008 financial crisis. Its share price had fallen from around €30 to just 13. It was becoming clear that the A380 would never deliver the success Airbus had hoped for. It felt as if the company had used its one big chance and missed, but aviation doesn't allow standing still. In a highly technical industry, stagnation means falling behind. Airlines were demanding newer, more efficient aircraft, and that pressure was increasing. For both Airbus and Boeing, ironically, it focused on Airbus's most popular aircraft of all. Even though Airbus had lost momentum on long-haul routes, there was another battlefield where it could not afford to fall behind. Narrow-body aircraft. They may not sound glamorous. Compared to long-haul wide-bodies, they look almost ordinary, but economically, they are far more important. Most passengers don't fly long distances. Short and medium-haul flights make up the majority of global air traffic, and that means most aircraft are built for exactly those routes. Since 1968, Boeing had dominated this market with the 737, and since 1988, Airbus had challenged it with the A320. It's no surprise that these two aircraft families became the best-selling passenger jets in aviation history. Despite Boeing's 20-year head start, Airbus managed to catch up, and in some years even surpass its American rival. But by 2010, it was clear that change was coming. Both aircraft families had received incremental updates over the years, but new developments in aviation made it obvious that the next evolutionary step was approaching. Airlines were pushing hard for lower operating costs, and it was only a matter of time before one manufacturer made the first move. At Airbus, there was serious discussion about designing an entirely new aircraft to replace the A320, a clean-sheet successor, a bold step. In the end, Airbus decided against it. Perhaps the experience with the A380 was still fresh. Perhaps the global economy made large risks unattractive. Instead of a big gamble, Airbus chose a smaller one, and that decision would turn out to be exactly right. This brings us back to the quiet announcement from 2010. Airbus revealed that the A320 would receive a new variant, the A320neo. Neo stands for New Engine Option. Buyers could choose between two new engines, the CFM-L EAP-1A or Pratt & Whitney's PW1100G geared turbofan. As a passenger, you wouldn't notice which engine an aircraft uses. What you might notice, if you know where to look, are the wings. On the A320neo, the wing tips curve upward. On older versions, now called the A320ceo, you only see flat end plates. That's it. No radical redesign. No world records. Airbus did not expect massive sales growth from the neo. The idea was simple: offer a more efficient A320 and buy time for a future, larger step. What happened next surprised everyone. Airbus initially planned for around 4,000 orders, over 15 years, for the entire A320neo family. At the time, that forecast was considered optimistic. Today, nearly 15 years later, the order count exceeds 11,000. With pending deals, it could even triple the original projection. And aircraft sales don't work like merchandise. The market is limited. Airlines don't buy aircraft because they look cool. So where did all these orders come from? Partly from Boeing customers, especially after the 737 MAX crisis. But that's only part of the story. The real reason lies in efficiency. The A320neo is about 15 to 20% more fuel efficient than its predecessor, and that raises an obvious question. Why? Why is this aircraft so much more efficient when only a few things changed? To answer that, we need to look at wings, engines, and physics. Let's start with the wing tips. They're called winglets, or sharklets in Airbus terminology. The idea isn't new. It was patented in 1897, before powered flight even existed. Birds have used the same principle for millions of years. Winglets reduce drag by weakening the vortices that form at the wing tips. Those vortices increase resistance. Reducing them saves fuel. But aerodynamics is complex. You can't simply add winglets to any aircraft without affecting stability, structure, and weight. The A320 design dates back to the 1980s. Fuel efficiency wasn't as critical then as it is today. With modern simulation tools and materials, Airbus could finally redesign the wing tips properly. The result? Around 3.5% fuel savings from winglets alone. That may sound small, but for airlines, it matters. Even more important were the engines. Modern turbofan engines work by moving large amounts of air at relatively low speed. Most of the air doesn't go through the hot core at all. It flows around it. The ratio between bypass air and core air is called the bypass ratio. Higher bypass ratios mean higher efficiency, but larger fans create new problems. They're heavier, their blades move faster, they approach structural and acoustic limits. This is where materials science becomes critical. New composites, stronger alloys, and advanced cooling made larger fans possible. One engine even added a gearbox between the turbine and the fan. This allows the turbine to spin fast, while the fan rotates more slowly, each at its optimal speed. It's cutting-edge engineering and still challenging today. Together, these improvements turned the A320neo into an airline favourite. Airlines don't want spectacle. They want reliability, low costs, and flexibility. The A320neo family delivers exactly that. It's flown by legacy carriers and fast-growing airlines alike. And the transition from older A320 is easy. Pilots require minimal retraining. Maintenance infrastructure remains familiar. Switching from an A320ceo to an neo is like upgrading to a new smartphone generation. Familiar, but significantly better. That simplicity created demand. That didn't exist before. Airlines retired older aircraft sooner to save fuel costs. And from the same family, another success is emerging. The A321XLR, extra long range. With a range of up to 8,700 kilometers, it blurs the line between short-haul and long-haul. It allows airlines to serve thin, long-distance routes that were previously uneconomical. While Boeing struggles to rebuild trust, Airbus is expanding production and still can't meet demand. Waiting times for A320 NEO aircraft now stretch several years into the future. Sometimes the biggest transformation comes from the smallest step.